but dudes written's a product of my shrewd penning. Confused in it, I'm saying I've chewed mics to a crew likes delusions, exuberant mic.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your host, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Smackdown, episode 1200. So this is from August the 19th, 2022. So I'll just mix in some of the notes along with the show, because almost every note about SmackDown involves SmackDown so far. All right, so Ronda Rousey starts the show. She's wearing eye makeup again. It seems like that's the Triple H's new gimmick. Just put eye makeup on everybody. Eye makeup for all. Anyway, she comes out and almost immediately we get security. And Adam Pearce says that she understands Ronda Rousey's frustrations and she can't hijack the show. He's asking her to leave peacefully. She said last week she chose to leave peacefully. This week she's choosing violence. Then she goes all Black Widow and decides to beat up 2 fully grown security guys by herself. Then the police show up. Ronda Rousey then surrenders, is arrested, then walks out. Later we find out that Adam Pearce did not press charges because it was, just trespassing. And she has been released on her own recognizance. So we got no real storyline throughout the show with this. It was just, hey, everybody, Ronda Rousey still exists. She's still around. Okay, that's fine if that's what you want. There was also a Jim Cornette reference by Pat McAfee, which garnered a little bit of a giggle from Michael Cole. There's a lot of little references throughout the night that, the internet blew up about. Apparently, Jim Cornette was in the pilot episode of SmackDown. I don't think I've ever seen the pilot episode of SmackDown, now that I think about it. Has it ever been released? Is it on the network? I don't think I've ever seen it. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out where we're going with this Ronda Rousey pops up every week stuff. I'm not really seeing the big picture with that, but whatever. All right, match 1. It was supposed to be Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark, but they were taken out and replaced with Toxic Attraction, which is seemingly what everybody said was going to happen. Now, the reason why they were taken out is apparently Zoe Stark has a concussion, or she's not medically fit to. And then there is the whole Nikita Lyons is not medically unavailable, where some people have taken to think that she's unvaccinated and therefore cannot enter Canada. I looked it up, and you don't need a passport in Quebec, but you still need a passport to get into Canada. So there's still vaccine mandates to get from the United States to Canada. But I think they probably would relax those if you had a compelling state reason for going in there. Like they have this questionnaire that you have to fill out in order to can you enter Canada without being vaccinated? And Nikita Lyons, from what I would look at, if she's unvaccinated, would not make the list anyway. In any event, she's not there, so they replaced with Toxic Attraction. Now, at first I was kind of like, heel versus heel, and then I realized, oh, Natalya, we are in Montreal. That means she's a baby face, and I was actually afraid for a moment that they might actually win. And then I was reminded that we're watching WWE. Nobody wins in their hometowns. I mean, this isn't Calgary, but this is closer to Calgary than she's going to get in a long time. And who takes the pinfall? Natalya. I love it. I love it. Bailey, Io, Sky, and Dakota Kai are watching from the crowd. Apparently they have tickets. There was actually a vignette for Toxic Attraction that played during their entrance. So it was very short. It was probably about 40 seconds, maybe. Of course, Toxic Attraction looked great. They came off, they had really great energy too. The match itself was fine. It wasn't great. It was a solid showing for them, but it was weird having Sonya Deville, who's been a fairly solid heel, getting worked over in this match. Like, it was so strange, like real strange booking, that Sonya Deville, who's like been a super devil for a while now, and she was doing hot tags with Natalya because Natalya is Canadian. Very weird decision. But the right team won. Toxic Attraction won. Right thing. So then we get this great segment between Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. So Sami Zayn is allowed into Roman Reigns' locker room because Roman was waiting for him. They have a little bit of a chit chat as Sami Zayn tells Roman that things have been a bit dicey because Jey Uso been on his case. He's been yelling at him a lot, saying he doesn't deserve to be there. He needs to carry his own weight. And then he says that, you know, I saved him from a Claymore. He's kind of ungrateful. And Roman agreed to say that Jey doesn't really appreciate anything that he should. And then he tells Sami Zayn to wait right there. He's got to go do something else. And he walks off screen. His phone starts to ring because he left his phone. It's Jey Uso. So Roman tells Sami Zayn to answer the phone. Jey Uso is on the phone yelling at Sami Zayn about something or other. Then we find out later that it's the Usos. They're also medically unavailable, apparently, and therefore will not be there. So now Roman is by himself in Canada, and, you know, only person he's got is Sami Zayn. He got his good buddy Sami Zayn. So Sami reminds Roman that he's there. He's got his back. And then, you know, he kind of tells Roman, hey, you know, I'm in this number one contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship. And Roman's like, Intercontinental Championship, huh? That would look good in the bloodline. And Sami Zayn is super amped up. He's like, hell yeah, it surely would. Then Roman asked him if he was still cool with Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn says, oh yeah, we from right here in Montreal. We're BFFs for life. And then he has a message for Kevin Owens and said that, hey, you tell him I don't know anybody anything. And Sami Zayn completely agreed and will pass on the message. So this was excellent, of course. Sami Zayn has such awesome chemistry because he plays a great stooge. So he has this great energy where he can bounce off of anybody. Like, this is almost as good. Matter of fact, it might be better than his storyline with Brock, where him and Brock was in the ring, you know, and they were coming to an agreement that they were great Canadian buddies. And I forget who said it, but somebody said that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are likely to be the contenders to wrestle the Usos. And that makes perfect sense to me. And it seems like they're needling further and further towards the Usos and Roman absolutely just obliterating Sami Zayn. Like, he's already turning babyface, you know, and it's not just this crowd. He's doing stuff that, you know, he's being very entertaining. And everybody knows how the Usos and Roman are. They're very duplicitous. And Roman is back to being manipulative. And he is completely manipulating Sami Zayn. You know, giving Sami Zayn all of this credit, agreeing with him against Jey, you know, all this stuff. He's going to stab him in the back. Now, Sami Zayn did not become the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. That went to Sheamus. Sheamus versus Madcap Moss, Ricochet, Happy Corbin, and Sami Zayn. Sheamus pins Happy Corbin with the Brogue Kick. The match was really solid. It was really long, though. It was really long. Sami Zayn took a white noise from the second rope, and then immediately he started clutching his shoulder. Considering he had I think, surgically repaired shoulder, isn't it? You know, it kind of spooked me for a moment because it was a bit of an ugly bump. When he did the old aided by the referees leaving the ringside area, I was like, oh, he's going to come back and win. You know, that's the big hero spot. During this match, there was an El Generico drop by Michael Cole, and that got everybody gassed up. Everybody like, he knows. It's like, I'm fairly sure he knows about El Generico. Come on. It's just not relevant to what's going on here. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy spots, usually involving Ricochet. Ricochet takes some amazing bumps in this match. He took one bump that was just like insane. It was from like the second rope or something like that. I forget what it was. I'm trying to remember. But it was very ugly. It was like a crazy bump. Anyway, Sheamus wins with the Brogue Kick. Sheamus versus Gunther is going to be a fight to the death. I'm saying this might be pretty close to a shoot fight. It might get pretty close to a shoot fight. I mean, I don't see anybody. It's gonna look like, one of those scenes after Street Fighter after this match is over. Like, go home and be a family man. Face might be all lumped up, and hair all mussed. I mean, if they really let Sheamus cut loose, Gunther's gonna be in some trouble. He still might win. I still think Gunther is gonna win. But by Christ, it's gonna be wild. And it's also that very odd decision making to have Sheamus, who's been booked as a heel thus far, go into Wales as going to be positioned as the babyface. So we about to turn the Brawling Brutes babyface. I don't know. And that's the weird thing, It's like Sheamus has been so good as a heel that you kind of want him to stick with it. But also, if you know. But if you don't know, I'm about to tell you. Sheamus needs to win an Intercontinental Championship to have won every title that he's capable of winning, outside of the NXT joints. I think he needs the Intercontinental Championship to be a Grand Slam champion. And that was his reason for even wanting to be on SmackDown in the first place. So this is his first match for the Intercontinental title, I think. And it's possible that they might want to, give him that accolade and he wins the Intercontinental Championship, but it's not likely. Again, I'm kind of stupefied by the idea of we're going to do one big match to make an Intercontinental Champion number one contender rather than doing a storyline. But I don't know. It seems like a very Impact way to do things. That's how Impact does things. Let's just throw a bunch of people in the ring. Some of the same people who've been wrestling each other for the past couple of weeks anyway. People who never seem to be able to break through the glass ceiling. And we'll just have the champion beat the winner. It seemed like that's what they were doing here. Instead of taking the time to build up anybody, they just decided to microwave the damn thing. Well, they only got 2 weeks. So they decided to microwave the damn thing by just having Sheamus win. So now it's about to be a good match for the sake of good match, rather than building it up to Sheamus and Gunther in terms of a story. So that's going to be a disappointment. That is not going to be a story. To continue this sort of angle, the Sami Zayn angle, we got Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre, he gets a little bit of a vignette earlier because he got to go face to face with Roman Reigns, whatever that means. But the best thing about this is that we got a segment from Karrion, Kross, and Scarlett. So Scarlett has a promo where she says that the tongue is not steel, yet it cuts. Basically saying that, Karrion Kross's words the previous week really hurt Drew McIntyre. And then Kross says that Drew is a chosen one. But this upset him. He says, why? He says, because he's just like Reigns. It's just what Drew is. That the company chose Drew, and they chose wrong. That Roman was picked to set the table that he failed to set. And that deep down inside, Drew McIntyre knows that they were wrong. And I liked all of this. I liked all of it. I specifically liked Kross's performance. Like I say, is very Sid Vicious in how he talks kind of softly and kind of normal. He's also very polite too, which is odd. Like he even said hello to everybody. And then he goes like crazy psycho killer at the end as he's screaming and everything. So that works. The content of this actually works too. If you look at like the Man of Destiny, it's always an argument over free will versus the DIY culture. Did you do it yourself, or was it always that way? Or did you not have to really do anything? And that's kind of, it's almost like creating an imposter syndrome in the head of Drew McIntyre, that he is always what he was destined to be. And Karrion Kross is reminding him that this was always, his destiny, but he also failed. That he was, the chosen one who failed, who, yes, he came back and achieved, but this was always what you were supposed to do. This was always your path in life, and it kind of cuts into Drew McIntyre's work ethic argument, that he's the guy who comes there and he's busting his ass week in and week out. He's always there. Stuff he's pulling on Roman. Roman's never here. He's not representing the championships well and all that kind of stuff. I busted my ass. I got fired, yada, yada, yada. And Kross is reminding him, like, you were the chosen one. There was a lot expected of you, and they were wrong, and you know that they were wrong. And Drew doesn't like being reminded of that, apparently. As we saw in the Raw promo, it really upset him that it's almost as if he's being told that he was handed something. Because that's generally what you believe if somebody is a man of destiny, right? Things are happening that doesn't really require a lot of work from him. Like he's a child of inheritance. That's kind of what you see sometimes in stories that feature like the child of destiny. Like the power is already inside them. They just have to awaken it. You already have the power. You just have to develop it. That's typically what you see sometimes with like women and stuff like that, like Captain Marvel, or for what I heard, that Star Wars girl was like that. What was it, Ray from the movie, that she already had the powers and abilities. I'll use something that I knew that I'm more familiar with. Korra from Avatar. Like there's 4 elements. Korra already knows 3 of them. When we meet her at the beginning of Avatar, she already knows 3 of the elements. She only needs to learn 1 more. And she's very cocky about it. She's very big-headed about it. And that's when you get like a child of destiny. The Avatar, that was a great story. That was a story of a child of destiny. But you also had to see the work that was put in. Aang was a child of destiny. It was always his destiny to maintain the balance in the 4 kingdoms and all that kind of stuff. And he ran away from that destiny. He failed. The Fire Nation took over. But, I don't know how many years was he in that block of ice. And then I think it was like 100 years or something like that. And then he comes back. He still can't run from his destiny. He still has to do it. So that's what, Kross is basically saying to Drew McIntyre. Like, yeah, you failed, but it was your destiny to fail and come back. Like once you say you don't have any free will, that means everything from every pitfall to every rise is just part of your story. It's not because of your work ethic. It's just, this was preordained, so that's an excellent promo, and it's really it's very psychological too, when you really consider it, about in terms of, is Drew McIntyre really the hard-working blue-collar guy that he is coming across, or is he the child of destiny? And it also fits perfectly into the Kevin Owens promo, where he tells Drew McIntyre, you don't know who you are. Sometimes you wear a kilt, sometimes you have a sword. Even though they kind of got rid of the sword and the kilt and all that kind of stuff, which I think actually he should have. He should have those things. They're cultural identifiers for him, and it's actually great for his character to have them. Of course, if he's going to have a sword, he's got to use it, but he still should have the sword. I mean, that's just me. I noticed that since Triple H took over, he really hasn't had the sword that often. He should have it though. So this has been really interesting story building for Drew McIntyre. It's an interesting sort of imposter syndrome situation where they're trying to implant that into his head. He doesn't know who he is. He was always destined to be this way, and he's rebelling against it. No, I did this on my own. I failed. I fought back. I was put on a path. I jumped off the path and blazed my own trail. And they're like, no, it was always meant to be this way. And so now Karrion Kross is haunting Drew McIntyre, with the hourglass and his belongings in the locker room and everything. Is very, very interesting. Very interesting stuff. So we get to the end of the show where Roman and Drew are about to talk to one another. And Roman says that he's not there every week. And when he's not there, people tend to say stupid stuff. So if anybody says that they're the face of the company, they're the main event, that they're carrying the company, they're lying to you. There's only one person carrying the company. There's only one person who's the main event. There's only one person who's the face of the company. That is the almighty tribal chief. Then he says he ain't got nothing to say to Drew because Drew is beneath him. Then Drew come out there and says that Roman is not properly representing the titles, that he doesn't deserve to be the champion because he's always got Paul Heyman or the Usos doing the work for him. And says that without them, you're just a man. And in your eyes, I can see fear. I see concern. And then he says there's not a man alive that he can't tear apart with his bare hands. Then they agree to fight, and then they do. At one point, Sami Zayn slides into the ring to push Roman Reigns aside and take that Claymore kick for Roman, even though he ended up getting hit with a Claymore anyway, because Drew McIntyre is back to being Super Drew. And the show goes off the air with Drew posing with the championships in clear violation of regulations, which lets you know that he's probably not going to win the title in Cardiff. And Roman probably won't be around for a while. So it is what it is. I think the final segment, I think the fight scene was unnecessary. I mean, I just think that sometimes you don't really want to blow off the heat by having these guys fight. There's not a lot of heat between Roman and Drew anyway. And you should have taken more time to build that heat rather than just having Drew McIntyre beat up Roman. You know, there's just something to be said about not everything needs to end in physical conflict. Also, not teasing Austin Theory was an interesting choice too. It seemed like they're just going with, we're not always going to shoot an angle at the end of the show, which is cool. You know, sometimes you don't have to shoot an angle at the end of the show. You know, have a cliffhanger to get people to watch it again. Sometimes you want to leave people with an image. And the image they wanted to end the show with was Roman down, Drew McIntyre with the belts. That's the image that they wanted. That's the image that they got. So that worked out. And they got also secondary. They finished the story with Roman and Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn not only saved Jay, but now he's also saved Roman. And so now we got some intrigue there as well. And I'm really enjoying the Sami Zayn parts. And if it's going to be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos, that's going to rule. That's going to kick a lot of ass, man. That's going to kick a lot of ass. And I really support that. I really wish I could remember when somebody plants ideas in my head so that I can give them appropriate credit. But I absolutely don't remember who did it now. But I'm almost certain that that's the case now. Looking at how they've been building up this storyline, yeah, it's almost absolutely the case that Roman and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to be the opponents for Clash at the Castle. That'll be great, and it'll take Kevin Owens off the title picture for a while because I don't want him in that world title picture at all. All right, so Maximum Male Models. They don't even get 2 words out before they're interrupted by Hit Row. Max Dupree gets into Top Dollar's face and then says that they're not Maximum Male Models material. Then they all get beat up and thrown out of the ring so that Hit Row could do their BET fucking performance. Before we get into that, though, as terrible as it was, and it was indeed terrible, Hit Row sucks. I mean, that their music stuff is just trash. It's trash. But there was an interesting thing on Twitter that shows you how Top Dollar didn't learn anything from getting released the first time, and that he continues to be a sensitive putz. Somebody says that it was just a fan, regular fan, said that Hit Row needs to have a leader because Top Dollar is not good enough to be the leader. So Top Dollar, for starters, they kind of rejected the concept of having a leader. But this is only the first thing that he kind of went off on. He says, imagine coming on the internet and telling me, the person who created the Row in 2018, that I need a leader, when the entire crew is my idea, with my catchphrases and my song that I wrote and recorded in my studio in my house. Y'all internet people have endless audacity. I mean, he's absolutely feel like, oh, I got to take credit for everything. Like, yeah, it's fine that everybody knows that, everything was your idea. That was great. And then when Lio Rush was trending on Twitter because he was teasing, popping up on Raw, everybody kept saying Lio Rush should get put in Hit Row, because Lio Rush is a rapper. So that's what everybody was thinking. AJ Francis then went on Twitter and said that y'all need to stop trying to put all black people in the same stable. To which MVP responded, at least they're not trying to make y'all the new nation. And I was just kind of like, why is this Negro so sensitive? Like, he is too big to be this sensitive. It's got to be the chicken legs, man. It's got to be those chicken legs. He got pigeon legs. That's got to be the source of his weakness. You look at this big foghorn leghorn motherfucker, and he looks like a big tough guy, but he lets people just rattle him up so much on Twitter. It is so whack. It is so whack. If you're going to be like this kind of rapper, dude, you should be cool. Like, be cool. Play it off cool. He could have just posted a picture of like what Hit Row was before, they added Swerve and all these guys to it. But this whole thing about all of this is mine, all of this is my idea. And I'm just kind of looking like, ugh, like, all right, I guess it's your idea. That's great. But you're still not fit to be the leader of this thing, because I didn't know it existed in 2018. You act like you created Bullet Club or something like that. You act like you created the NWO. You act like you created DX. You created some shit on the independents that nobody outside of maybe 10 people knew. I didn't know them motherfuckers existed in 2018. You act like you was setting the world on fire. Like you was the king of the fucking indies or something like that. Like, come on. Come on, man. Be humble. Be humble. I don't understand that guy, man. That guy's the shits. That guy's the shits, man. He sucks. And this performance was not good either. They weren't on beat. I didn't know what the fuck they were saying. It just wasn't good. I don't care. They did a spot where Maxine Dupree was into this whole thing though, and Max was pulling her away. So apparently they're gonna do a thing where Maxine just likes all the stuff about SmackDown. She liked the Los Lotharios the previous week, and then Max had to kind of get in the way. And now she likes Hit Row, and Max is getting in the way. So they're kind of telling the story right now that Max is going to be the hating big brother. And so they probably leaning more towards breaking up Maximum Male Models already. You know what? I can tell that Triple H probably wasn't thrilled with this idea. He's just trying to find a logical way to get rid of it. And I guess having a split between Maxine and Max be the reason why, things have to change, especially for Max, who everybody wants to get out of this gimmick. Kicking him out of his own gimmick, it has to be, for starters, is going to be, it's looking like it's going to be a face turn for Maxine, but it should be a heel turn for Maxine, because do you really want Max to come out of this thing as the heel? Or is it heelish to kick a guy out of a group because he's being an asshole and it's trying to stop you from having fun? It's I don't know, but that seems to be what they're leaning towards. So next, we got the Viking funeral for the New Day, where these two guys, there was torches and shields, and Sarah Logan was there. She was drawn on their face. Very interesting stuff. I hope she stays around, personally. I always think that adding a woman to something, especially guys who are pretty plain, they add something. They kind of could use a feminine touch. Not when they were doing comedy garbage, though. But they need to have like a boat needs a sail. That's kind of what sometimes guys need, a sail. Sometimes the guys need a woman. And I wouldn't mind if Sarah Logan came out with the Viking Raiders from now on. Anyway, they said that they are on location to prepare, and they respect New Day as champions and heroes, but their time is past. They failed to hear the warnings, and they were too proud. So now Valhalla awaits. The sun will set on the New Day. And then they burned New Day t-shirts. They burned a box of Bootios. They burned the unicorn headdress. And they showed clips of New Day getting beat up throughout this whole thing. So that was all very charming. You know, it was simple to the point. I don't know what more to say. I'm not really thrilled about New Day still being around, but I mean, it is what it is, and you can't get rid of everybody. Hopefully, New Day comes back more serious, though. That's one thing that I really do want. So Liv Morgan got into a bit of a tiff with Shotzi on Twitter. The gist of it, because I don't want to go through and read it all, is that Liv Morgan was talking about her arm injury, and Shotzi said that she wasn't really injured and that she was faking it. To which they kind of got into a back and forth, and Liv Morgan posted a picture of Ruby and said that she was the real tattooed, long-haired rebel or something like that. And Shotzi said, you know, you should look at that picture because you're the reason she got fired or some other shit. It just got real ugly. And then they decided to have the match. And I don't think I heard them mention at all that they were arguing on Twitter during the show, because I don't remember seeing it at all. It seemed like if you're going to shoot an angle on Twitter, you should at least mention it. But I don't know. But a lot of people have been talking about Shotzi getting her tank back. I don't think that matters as much as people think. Like, sometimes people really get hung up over little stuff like the tank or Scarlett being with Kross. It's like, those are little add-ons. Those are little cherries on top. What they need to fix when it comes to Shotzi is her presentation. You know, like she's getting a lot of character stuff in for being a jobber, but she is ultimately a jobber. You know, like that's the part that needs to change. Before we start talking about tanks and helmets or anything, we need to talk about Shotzi being a jobber. Like, that's not what she should be. So because I said Shotzi was a jobber, you know she lost this match. So she lost to Liv Morgan. Put up a decent enough fight. She cut a promo. I like Shotzi's voice. Like, she's got it's like I said, it's a very masculine voice, but it sounds very serious. And they kind of bring it into, you know, her laugh is kind of also kind of horror. Like, I didn't know, for starters, let me back up a little bit. I didn't know Shotzi was in horror movies. That was the first thing. She was in a couple of, I think, really B level, probably C or D level horror movies. Second, she was topless in those movies. So I think they're on Tubi, but I don't remember what they were called. So she got a couple of horror movie credentials, and you can see her boobies. You can see her bubs if you really want to. I saw pictures of them, so I don't need to watch the movie. I was like, hey, thank y'all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A blessed man of culture made sure I saw those pictures. Anyway, Shotzi's character should be leaning more towards the horror aspect, and not so much, you know, tank ride and tank girl gimmick. I like the idea of her being like the horror queen, the scream queen, you know, similar to what Daphne was. I like that idea. I think we should go that route. But she needs to actually start winning fucking matches, you know. So that's like she needs to be taken seriously, and she needs to win fucking matches. But Liv Morgan also needs to win, so I'm not saying that she should have won this match. I don't believe in beating the champions. That don't make no sense. So Liv Morgan wins. Afterwards, she's attacked by Shayna Baszler, of course. Baszler twists the wrist, and it looks like she's about to snap the arm of Liv Morgan. Then she tells Liv that she could break her arm right now, but she would rather wait until Cardiff so she can take the title too. And, you know, Shayna Baszler also got the Road Warrior eye paint, because there's like 100 people with the eye paint now. Ronda's got it. Goddamn, Shayna's got it. Viking Raiders got it. You know, everybody's got eye paint now. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be more people popping up with eye paint. There's probably some more that I'm not thinking of right now. But that's generally the gist of SmackDown. That's kind of it. The show seems shorter than it really is because the matches are getting longer. That Intercontinental Championship match was, or the Number One Contenders match was very long. That first match was also pretty lengthy. So they're finding ways to eat up time. And in doing so, making the show move a little bit faster. And I really enjoyed this episode of SmackDown. Sure, I think that there are some things that we could have missed. For instance, we should have got an old school promo for everybody who's going to be in the Intercontinental Championship Battle Royal. Something like they do to the Royal Rumble, where it's just kind of like go from person to person in their locker room talking about, how they're going to win the Intercontinental Championship, number one contenders thing. And, so people can get used to who they are, and they can share some character stuff. They can even promote some feuds that they're currently involved in. But that's some stuff that I'm, being admittedly nitpicky about. Because that's the kind of stuff I'm very serious about. I always care more about stories than I do about matches. I just do. But I'm glad they moved on. They didn't rematch Nakamura and Gunther, even though it seemed like they might do that because of the way they had Nakamura watching. But this was good. They still need to build up more high level contenders. It's like, okay, sure, you got Drew McIntyre, but you probably need like another level. I get it. You got Kross too, which is the only other person getting a push on this show. Everybody else is just dumped in the middle. Everybody else is just kind of dumped in the middle somewhere. A lot of people are just suggesting that pretty much anybody who was on the show but not on the show was unvaccinated and thus can't come into Canada. So you got the Usos, who it's probably their DUIs, if we're being honest, why they can't come into Canada. The Viking Raiders is another one. They probably think those guys can't get into Canada because they're unvaccinated. It's like, I don't know. I don't even really care at this point. It is what it is. They still had a very solid show, and they still was able to feature people, on the show, even if they weren't able to get in the country, because they're smart and they utilize the power of vignettes and video packages. And they furthered stories with video packages. They had quite a few video packages on this show. And that's the it's probably a little bit expensive, to make videos, but it's the easiest way to tell stories, especially over long forms. Like they showed the video package of Shayna Baszler winning the number one contendership, and then we went into the Shotzi match, and then we saw Shayna Baszler afterwards. Again, it speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. It does enough. All right, so I would think that for something like a 1200 episode, they would have done more, but Triple H is trying to keep it simple, and I don't blame him. It is what it is. Keeping it simple is good. But let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.